In 2016, Chuks told his father he needed 350,000 naira. He said he wanted to travel to Libya and from there cross into Italy. His father, a man named Ndebu, did not have that kind of money lying around. He loved his son, so he gathered what he could and handed him 200,000 naira. He hoped it would be enough to start something. He hoped his son would finally have a better life. However, it was not enough for Chuks, and he never thought of saving it. He did not plan with it either. Instead, he spent it carelessly until there was nothing left. Then he came back to his father's house and asked for more. This time, his father said no. What this refusal would lead to will be the revelation of a secret that would shock an entire community, because behind Chuks' calm face was a secret so dark and so horrifying that even his own father could not have imagined it. A secret buried right under his feet, inside his own compound, sealed with fresh cement. When his father refused to give him more money, Chuks became furious. He turned on the man who raised him and threatened to kill him. He told his father he would throw his body inside the soak-away pit in the compound, just like he had done to others. Again, just like he had done to others. His father would remember those words for the rest of his life, because months earlier, he had noticed something strange. The lid of the soak-away pit in his compound had been resealed with new cement. When he asked Chuks about it, his son gave him a simple explanation. He said cockroaches, ants and rats were crawling out of the pit and getting into the house, so he sealed it up to keep them out. Pa Ndebu was pleased. He thought his son was finally showing some responsibility around the house. He had no idea that what his son had really sealed inside that pit was not vermin, it was something far darker. After the threat, Pa Ndebu did something many fathers in his position would never dare to do. He walked into a police station and filed a petition against his own son. He told police that Chuks had threatened his life, but by the time officers moved to act, Chuks had already fled Asaba for Enugu State. For 9 long months, he stayed away, building a new life, getting married and starting a family as if the past no longer existed. But secrets like this do not stay buried forever. Neighbors on the streets where Pa Ndebu lived had no reason to suspect that anything was wrong. Life in the compound looked completely ordinary. People walked past that soak-away pit almost every single day, never once imagining what was sealed beneath the cement. It was a quiet, respectable street, the kind where nobody locks eyes twice with a passerby, and below all this, a horror sat waiting to be uncovered. In June 2018, Chuks came back to Asaba. He told people that he wanted to make peace with his father and asked for forgiveness, but his father had never withdrawn that petition. The moment police learned that Chuks had resurfaced, detectives from the State Criminal Investigation Department moved in and placed him under arrest. At first, it looked like a simple case of a father and son family dispute. Nobody could have guessed what detectives were about to uncover. Under questioning, Chuks gave in. He agreed to lead detectives to his father's compound, straight to the same soak-away pit his father had once thanked him for sealing. Officers began to dig, slowly and carefully, until they broke open the cement lid that had remained undisturbed for 2 good years. What they found inside shocked them to their marrow. A human skull, a woman's bra, and the rotten, decomposed remains of a human body. The pit Chuks had claimed was sealed to keep out pests had actually been sealed to keep in evidence of murder. Faced with what police had dug out of the ground, Chuks stopped denying anything. He confessed to a chilling pattern. He told detectives that anyone who crossed him or offended him would end up thrown inside that same soak-away pit, then sealed away with fresh cement as if they never existed. He explained how the woman found in the pit had ended up there. According to his confession, it all began with his girlfriend, a married mother of 4, named Blessing Ekweme. Blessing had connections to a doctor who wanted to buy a child. She knew that a friend of hers had a young baby, so she convinced this friend to bring her 1-year-old son to Chuks' house. The woman had no idea that she was walking into a trap. That night, Chuks called on a friend known as Saturday, a man he described as a specialist for this kind of dirty work. Saturday strangled the woman to death inside the house. It was Blessing, according to Chuks, who suggested they dump her body inside the soak-away pit in his father's compound. Together, they carried out the murder, disposed of the body, and then sealed the pit with cement, bought for just 500 naira. When Pa Ndebu came home and noticed the fresh cement, Chuks fed him the lie about cockroaches and rats. his father believed him completely. Meanwhile, the baby boy, now motherless and unaware of what had happened, was taken to Benin City by Blessing. There, she sold him to a doctor for 350,000 naira. The three conspirators split the money equally between them, each one walking away with 115,000 naira for a human life. For 2 good years, the case sat cold. The woman was gone. Her child had vanished into another family entirely. Nobody came looking, and nobody asked questions. It was as if the young mother had simply disappeared off the face of the earth, when in truth, she had never left that compound at all. Chuks lived freely, going about his daily business as a builder, walking past that sealed pit every single day, until greed and rage over his father's refusal to fund his travel plans put the whole plot back in motion. What is perhaps most disturbing about Chuks' confession was how casually he described it all. He did not speak like a man haunted by guilt. He spoke like someone describing a routine he had followed before, more than once. He hinted that this woman was not the first person to disappear inside that pit, and detectives were left to wonder just how many other victims might still be sealed somewhere, waiting to be found. Once Chuks confessed, police moved quickly to track down Blessing Ekweme. She was arrested days later in Enugu State. Under questioning, she did not try to hide her role. She admitted that Chuks and Saturday were the ones who physically threw the murdered woman into the pit. She also confirmed that it was her job to take the surviving baby to Benin City and sell him for 350,000 naira, money the three of them shared equally. But there was another twist buried in her story. Blessing revealed that after the murder, her relationship with Chuks fell apart. She said Chuks had wanted to marry her, but she was already married with 4 children of her own and had no plans of leaving her family. The two eventually went their separate ways, never imagining that years later, a family argument over travel money would bring the whole crime crashing back into the light. By the time she was arrested, Blessing said she was prepared to cooperate fully with police and even offered to lead them to Benin City, to the very doctor she had sold the baby to 2 years earlier. As the investigation widened, the disturbing pieces of Chuks' double life came together. While he was running from justice in Enugu State, he had gotten married and started a family of his own. He had 2 children with his wife, though one sadly died at 8 months old. His second child was just 6 months old at the time of his arrest. He had built an entire new life, a wife, children, and a fresh start, while the truth of what he had done sat quietly under a slab of cement back in Asaba, waiting for him. Police also moved to arrest Saturday, the friend Chuks had called on to carry out the strangling. With all 3 suspects now in custody, investigators confirmed that no one connected to the crime would be spared prosecution. The trial was expected to be formally charged with murder and child trafficking once the investigation concluded. For Pa Ndebu, the elderly father who had once praised his son for sealing a pit against cockroaches and rats, the truth was almost too much to bear. He had unknowingly lived for 2 years, just meters away from a decomposing body, sealed there by his own son. It was his decision to report Chuks to the police over a simple threat that eventually cracked open one of the most horrifying cases Delta State had seen in years. A woman was dead, her child was sold like property, and it all might have stayed buried forever if not for a father's refusal to be silent and a son's fatal slip of the tongue. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories.